Ladies and gentlemen, there are moments in life when the pain becomes louder than our thoughts. When the weight of sickness presses so hard on the chest that even a whisper of hope feels impossible. I've stood by hospital beds. I've looked into eyes dim with exhaustion. Eyes that say, I've tried everything. And in those moments I've seen what science, logic, and medicine sometimes cannot explain. I've seen healing that comes not with a needle, not from a bottle, not from a machine, but from 4 simple words spoken with raw, honest faith. Jesus, I trust you. Now, I want to take you on a journey tonight, a journey that brings together the divine and the biological, the spiritual and the scientific, the unseen and the undeniable. Because whether you're sitting here with a body that's breaking down, or a heart that's giving up, or a mind that's weighed down by fear, you need to know something powerful. The body listens to what the heart believes. For decades, I've watched people chase healing like it's a far-off miracle, when in truth it's one breath, one whisper away. Let me tell you about Martha. She was 67 years old when I met her. Lovely woman, vibrant once, but now bent by pain. Doctors had given her 7 different prescriptions for 7 different symptoms, but nothing touched the root. I walked into her room one evening while she was hooked up to IVs, her hands trembling. I asked her one question: do you believe Jesus can heal you? Tears welled up in her eyes, and she said, I want to believe, but I'm tired. I held her hand and gently whispered, say these 4 words with me: Jesus, I trust you. Now let me be clear, this is not a magical formula. These are not words of ritual. These are words of surrender. Neuroscience today confirms that what we speak and believe creates actual pathways in the brain. Highways of healing or corridors of despair. The power of belief rewires the body. The brain is not static. It's plastic. It responds, it bends to belief. And faith, my friends, is the fire that forges those pathways. Martha said those 4 words with a broken voice, a fragile voice. But something shifted. Within 10 minutes, and I timed it, her trembling stopped. Her breathing calmed. Her color returned. Her husband, standing there beside her, began to weep. What happened? He asked. She just looked at me and said, I don't feel sick anymore. And you know what? That wasn't the first time I saw that, or the last. There's something deeper happening here. Let me explain from a scientific lens, because I know some of you are thinkers, skeptics, logical processors. God isn't afraid of your mind. He made it. He created the limbic system, the amygdala, the hypothalamus, and every one of those regions, the fear center, the hormonal control station, the seat of memory, they're all influenced by one thing: expectation. Expectation releases neurotransmitters. Faith is expectation anchored in divine trust. When you speak, Jesus, I trust you, you aren't just saying words. You are initiating a neurological signal. Your amygdala calms. Cortisol begins to drop. Oxytocin rises. Your parasympathetic nervous system kicks in. Healing begins to be welcomed into the body. The immune system, long suppressed by fear and stress, suddenly reactivates. You're not waiting for God to move. He's been waiting for you to trust. I met a man once named Elijah. 53 years old, Vietnam veteran, hardened man. Cancer had touched his lungs, spread to his bones. I visited him in hospice. I don't believe in faith, he said. I believe in facts. I smiled. Let's talk about facts then, I said. Fact, you're still breathing. Fact, you're still here. Fact, Jesus still heals. He chuckled bitterly. You're crazy. No, I said, I just trust him. I didn't push. I didn't argue. I simply said, say these 4 words with me. Not because you're a saint, but because you're tired of running. Jesus, I trust you. With gritted teeth, he whispered them. His voice cracked, his hands shook, but again, 10 minutes later, his blood pressure began to stabilize. His eyes brightened. A nurse came in and said, his pain just dropped in half. Elijah looked at me like a man seeing sunrise after decades of night. He lived another year after that day. Pain-free, not just surviving, living. Laughing, restored. So what happened? Science will say psychosomatic response. Faith says divine touch. I say, why not both? The creator of your cells is not separate from the signals in your body. He wired you to respond to trust. And he's not moved by perfect words. He's moved by honest surrender. Jesus, I trust you. These 4 words are not religious phrases. They are a reset button for the soul. And if I can press deeper here, there's a reason healing flows through trust. Your body is not just flesh. You're a soul wrapped in skin. And when the soul is burdened with fear, the body bears the weight. But when the soul releases that burden, when you surrender that sickness into the hands of Jesus, the body finally gets permission to heal. You don't need to be perfect to receive healing. You just need to be willing. And let's be honest. Sometimes the hardest thing to do isn't believing in healing. It's believing that we deserve it. But let me ask you, would a loving father ever look at his child writhing in pain and say, you're not good enough for me to help? Never. Never. He runs to the child. He picks him up. He speaks peace. And our Father, the one who knit us together in the womb, is far more loving than any earthly dad. He is not looking for performance. He's waiting for permission. Jesus, I trust you. There is no sickness he cannot touch. No organ he cannot restore. No timeline he cannot override. Let me tell you about Dana. 29 years old, lupus, diagnosed 4 years ago. Doctors told her it was chronic, irreversible, degenerative. She came to one of our healing nights, sat on the back row, arms crossed, eyes guarded. She was skeptical. She had every right to be. She'd been prayed for, anointed, spoken over, but nothing had changed. She'd given up on healing. But something that night, a story, a word, a moment, cracked her heart open. I didn't even get to her. She didn't have hands laid on her. No one shouted. No one called her name. She just sat there in the dark and whispered those 4 words. Jesus, I trust you. And 10 minutes later, while the worship music was still playing, her chest pain vanished. Her skin cleared. Energy surged into her bones. That night she danced for the first time in years. Her doctors were stunned. Her labs normalized within 48 hours. Lupus went into remission and has stayed there since. Now listen, I don't share this to sell you hope. I share this to remind you that hope already lives inside you. That faith is not distant, it's already knocking. And healing is not reserved for the saints, the few, the holy. Healing is for the humble. Healing is for the hungry. And science is catching up to what the Spirit has known all along. That healing begins. We shift from striving to surrender. That stress suppresses healing. That fear blocks restoration. That faith, honest, raw, trembling trust opens the gates. Those 4 words, Jesus, I trust you, are a key. They are not begging, they are aligning. They're not about emotion, they're about position. When you say them, you reposition yourself under heaven's flow. You realign your heart with divine order. You allow what's always been true to become manifest in your body. Now, some of you are sitting here tonight thinking, but I've prayed before. I believed before, and nothing happened. Let me speak gently to you. Sometimes healing doesn't come because we're asking for an outcome instead of offering our trust. Sometimes we hold on to the sickness because we built an identity around it. It's become part of us. And trust, real trust, means laying that identity down. Jesus, I trust you. Can you say it tonight without holding back, without conditions, without agendas? Because when you do, when you release the outcome, when you release your control, when you say those 4 words, not as a strategy, but as surrender, something happens in the spirit and something shifts in the body. And healing comes. Now I want you to imagine something with me. Picture a bridge between the spiritual and the physical. On one side stands your body, weary, aching, full of symptoms and fear. On the other side is heaven's storehouse, healing, peace, restoration, the perfection of God's will. That bridge is built by trust. And the moment you say, Jesus, I trust you, it's like you're stepping out on that bridge. You're not just hoping, you're walking, you're crossing over. You're letting heaven touch earth through your belief. This is not imagination, it's design. You were created to be healed. Your body was built with healing already inside it. When you get a cut, the skin knows how to close. When a virus enters, your cells know how to fight. But when stress floods the system, when fear and doubt clog the inner flow, that natural healing gets stalled. Trust reopens the floodgates. And science has only scratched the surface of this mystery. Did you know that your body releases over 1,200 chemical reactions in response to positive belief alone? That your DNA can literally change shape based on emotional energy? Dr. Bruce Lipton, a cellular biologist, proved that our perception alters genetic activity. When you believe you're loved, when you believe you're safe, your body acts like it. And there is no greater safety, no deeper love than the presence of Jesus when you trust Him. Let me take you into a story that still gives me chills. There was a man named Clarence, 74 years old, diagnosed with late-stage Parkinson's. His hands trembled, his voice was faint, and he was losing his ability to walk. He didn't come to the meeting for healing. He came because his wife asked him to. He sat quietly near the front. I was speaking on the power of surrender, the same way I'm sharing with you now. I said, if you're tired of trying to fix yourself, just say these words: Jesus, I trust you. Clarence didn't raise his hand. He didn't stand up, but he closed his eyes and said it under his breath. He told me later, I didn't feel anything at first. But then, about 8 or 9 minutes in, something shifted. My hands, they just stopped shaking. He walked up to me after the meeting, no tremor, his voice clear. Is this real? He asked, tears in his eyes. I said, it's as real as the one you trusted. That was 5 years ago. He still calls me once a year just to say, still walking strong. Ladies and gentlemen, trust is not weakness. Trust is spiritual authority. It's where your strength begins. And those 4 words, Jesus, I trust you, are your way of saying, I'm no longer my own healer. I rest in the hands of the one who formed me. And you don't have to say them loud. You don't need music or mood or a crowd. I've seen people whisper those words alone in their bathroom and be healed. I've seen them sob them out in hospital beds. I've seen them say them on the floor, in prison cells, in moments of total despair, and heaven still answered. Healing isn't about the volume, it's about the vessel. And a surrendered vessel becomes a conduit for divine power. Let me share something the Lord showed me one night in prayer. I was weeping for a young girl in a coma, praying and pleading for her to wake up. And in that stillness, I heard this: you do not need to wake her. Just teach them to trust me. You see, healing doesn't come through force. It flows through yielded hearts. Now, I want to talk about one more thing that often keeps us from experiencing that flow: guilt. There are some of you in this room tonight and watching online who believe God can heal, but you don't believe He will heal you. You think your past has disqualified you, that you've sinned too much, that you missed your moment. Let me speak plainly to you. The cross canceled your guilt. The blood of Jesus did not halfway redeem you. He didn't say, you're kind of forgiven. He said, it is finished. And when you say, Jesus, I trust you, you are not just trusting for healing. You're trusting that His grace is bigger than your shame. You're letting mercy rewrite your story. I remember meeting a woman named Ruby, a former nurse who lost her license due to addiction. She came to our meeting broken, believing that sickness was her punishment. She said, I deserve this. I looked her in the eyes and said, no, you don't. You deserve grace. because Jesus thought you were worth dying for. And in that moment, she said those 4 words with tears streaming, Jesus, I trust you. 10 minutes later, years of fibromyalgia pain lifted from her body. She felt warmth shoot through her spine. She said it felt like light flooded me from the inside. She's now a restored woman ministering to others in recovery. Because when you trust Jesus, healing becomes your testimony, not just your experience. Friends, this is the God we serve, not a God of formulas, the God of faith, not a distant ruler, near Redeemer. And He is here right now, wherever you are, whether you're watching from a hospital bed or sitting in a living room, whether you're surrounded by people or all alone. Healing isn't coming later. It's available now. The question is not, will He do it? The question is, will you trust? I want you to place your hand right now, wherever the pain is, maybe at your chest, your stomach, your head, maybe it's emotional, the ache of anxiety, grief, loss. Maybe it's the silent war in your mind that no one sees. Wherever it is, place your hand there. And I want you to breathe. Now say with me. Don't whisper it out of fear. Say it with expectation. Jesus, I trust you. Say it again. Let it go deeper this time. Jesus, I trust you. One more time, not as a chant, but as a surrender. Jesus, I trust you. Now wait. Don't rush. Let your breath slow down. Let your shoulders loosen. Let the tears come if they need to. Let the warmth rise. You're not trying to make something happen. You're allowing it to happen. You've opened the door, and the healer has walked in. You may begin to feel heat in your body. That's okay. You may feel tears flow. That's okay. You may feel calm like you haven't felt in months. That's not placebo. That's peace. You may feel nothing right away, but trust that something has shifted, because it has. Healing is not always loud. Sometimes it begins in silence and unfolds in strength. I've seen people leave with nothing changed, only to wake up healed the next morning. I've seen tumors dissolve. I've seen blind eyes open. I've seen infertility reversed. I've seen stroke victims walk, not because of me, because of trust, because the name of Jesus isn't just a title, it's a power. And when you add your trust to His name, all things become possible. I want to leave you with this final story. There was a little boy named Nathan, just 7 years old, diagnosed with a rare autoimmune condition. His parents were frantic, trying everything, losing hope. I met them at a small church service. They weren't believers, just desperate. During prayer, I looked at that child and I said, "Buddy, do you know Jesus loves you?" He nodded. I said, "Then say this with me, Jesus, I trust you." He giggled and said it in his sweet little voice. 10 minutes later, his fever vanished. His skin cleared. He said, "I'm hungry." 2 weeks later, the doctor said, "We can't explain it. He's completely healed. But I can explain it. when we trust. Pure, simple, real. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't need a theology degree. You don't need perfect faith. You just need to lean, to release, to trust. Tonight, let this be the beginning of something brand new in your life. Let these 4 words become the rhythm of your day, the cry of your heart, the banner over your body. Jesus, I trust you. When you wake up, say it. When pain hits, say it. When fear comes, say it. And healing will follow. Not because you're striving, but because you surrender. And the moment trust rises, sickness bows, heaven moves. And Jesus does what he has always done. He heals. He restores. He makes new. So take your healing. Take it with open hand, with a heart laid bare, with a spirit that says, even if I don't understand, I still trust. Because 10 minutes of real trust can do more than 10 years of trying. Now go, walk in healing, walk in freedom, walk in trust. And never forget, those 4 words are still opening the gates of heaven. Jesus, I trust you.